right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion, Connecting the Dots, a discussion on private and public partnership and driving impact for our world. Our moderator today is Sarah Maston, and she will be bringing in her guests. Let's welcome them to the stage.
Hi, everyone. And Jessica, I think you're still here as well. I'm so excited to be here with this panel of incredible guests. I am going to introduce everyone by just having them introduce themselves. And so why don't we start with Yoko Watanabe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yoko Watanabe. I hope you're hearing me. Great. So I'm the global manager of the GEF Small Grants Programme implemented at UNDP, the United Nations Development Program. Sarah has kindly introduced me during her opening keynote speech. But yep, I'm the global manager who manages the small grants, which is active in 128 countries. We provide financial and technical support to civil society, the NGOs and local communities, indigenous peoples, women's group, and others to come up with innovative solutions and basically support that on the ground so that they can showcase that and then try to scale up. And that's where the IoT and the digital technology comes in. But over to you, Beth.
Awesome. Eric, would you like to introduce yourself to?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. This is Eric Pan from City Studio. We have been serving the maker community for 14 years. So we see a lot of wonderful things happen. But what we have been busy these days at is how can we create a better why and better how for the whole ecosystem. So we start to make more industrial sensors that you can just deploy in the wild to get the data from the frontier of civilization. And also we trying very hard to find out the reasons for more like projects or scenarios that the makers and also the Hackster community can contribute their talents to. So that's where we found a lot of challenging issues under the sustainability topic. So after a few months of conversations and talks, and we are here and plan to join the panel today.
Awesome. All right. And then Gautam, you are on mute. Okay, good. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Gautam. I'm calling in today from the equator in Nanyuki, Kenya. I run a company called Internet of Elephants. And Internet of Elephants, I mean, it exists entirely to try and create stronger connections between people and wildlife, but of course, using the power of digital technology and Internet of Things to do that.
And Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie O'Donnell. I am the project lead of Wild Labs, which is a community of conservationists who are using technology all around the world. Oh, I can see some familiar faces. So we, I think, are the kind of the other side of the equation. We have the conservationists and who have all of the challenges and the needs and the knowledge of how to deploy what's needed in the field. And our job is to connect them into the tech sector and connect them to each other to share best practice, learn from each other and develop new ways of deploying tech to measure and understand our natural world. So I think my first call to action is if you're in this chat and interested in wildlife conservation, you should be a part of our community and be connecting with conservationists on the ground to help them. Yeah.
No, awesome. Well, that's interesting because that kicks into one of my first questions that I was going to go around the table, because in this, although honestly, any one of you I could listen to for absolutely days and hours, but for this small panel, I wanted you, if you could share your journey and how you got here. Folks know how I got here, but let's start with Stephanie, actually, what you just said, like how did you wind up here? And then folks that are interested, how does it work in Wild Labs?
So I think my journey is very similar to a lot of conservationists. So I'm a wildlife biologist by background, and I've spent a lot of time out in the field catching and monitoring endangered species and trying to understand where they are in the world and what's impacting them as they're out in the wild. And I remember actually the reason I got here was my first experience just out of uni. I was working with a critically endangered species called a northern quoll. You should look it up if you have internet. They're very cute. They're like Australia's like wild, almost like a wildcat. It's got white spots. Eats lots of will eat anything, but it will definitely eat a cane toad, which will kill it. And I had this experience of like, I was working with this critically endangered species. There were very few individuals left in the world, and I just needed to find out what was happening to them after we released them into the wild. So I had collars on them, and each of those collars would cost $1,000 a collar, more than $1,000 a collar. And I remember we got GPS collars, which 10 years ago was amazing. Like the data you could get, it just changed. Like I remember all of us being very excited. But these collars would cost $1,000 a collar and be all it would get me is 7 days of data, getting like data points every 15 minutes or so. And to get the data back, I needed to get the collar back. And these little animals run up rocky outcrops and into crevices, and
Oh, wow.
you can't always get the information back. And sometimes you can see the collar at the end of like this crevice and you just can't even get to it. And that precious information is just stuck in the wild, and you can't access it. And the thing that struck me was that that it's insane that $1,000 a collar to get that little data, and it made such a difference to our work and could change the trajectory of that species' existence on this planet. And it cost so much and was so inaccessible. And at the same time, I had an iPhone in my pocket. As a consumer, I had access to better tech than someone working on trying to save an animal. And that experience and just the disconnect between what technology could do for us as consumers in our everyday life and what it was able to do in conservation and in the wild just really stayed with me and shaped my pathway through my career to this point where I had this opportunity to come on. There was this idea that we could create a community where conservationists could just talk to each other and figure out at the very first step who's doing what with technology, and just ask each other like, okay, you tried this, what can I do? And then if we could get the conservationists to come together and then get this critical mass of, okay, this is what we're all experiencing. These are common issues, right? How do we collectively, rather than as individuals, collectively talk to the people in the other sectors who have the knowledge and the experience and the resource to develop technology? Kind of what you talked about in your opening talk, Sarah, like instead of us trying to do everything ourselves, like, man, what a difference it could make if we could collaborate and stop trying, like everyone has a role to play in the sustainability and the conservation world. Like, how do we build pathways to try and leverage everyone's skills and resources and expertise so that we can kind of actually like achieve, like try and change the trajectory that we're on. Like we can't, yeah, I'm gonna get on.
Oh no, it's okay. It's funny because when I first met you, it was like, oh, hello. Like
yes.
because originally my project was called, I told Eric Dinerstein that if I could, I would find a way to get an army of nerds to come and help him and his friends. And then when I met your organization, that of course became known as Project 15, but that was really sort of a click when I said, oh, they're trying to do the same thing. And what it makes me think is around, Yoko, with your experience with all your projects that you have, do you mind sharing how many active projects you have with how many NGOs? You are on mute. Sure. Oh, yes. Okay.
No, great. Thank you so much, Sarah. So we actually work on over 27,000 projects around the world in 128 countries. So we've been in existence for 30 years, supporting local communities, working on biodiversity conservation, climate change, land degradation, chemicals and waste, including like plastic management. So all the current global environmental issues we cover. but we really want to work that from the bottom up, from the local community and empower them and to come up with their solutions rather than a sort of top-down approach that many of these projects actually take in this development world. So we've been really working with local communities, working on like wildlife conservation, like Stephanie mentioned. I actually am myself have been working on biodiversity conservation for over 30 years now, started in Nepal, Mongolia, and to Rwanda. And my first work was conserving snow leopard in the mountains of Himalayas, and then to Mongolia, where we supported also snow leopard, but also camels and other species, and also go beyond species, but really manage the landscape and seascapes where all the ecosystems are. And so even though we have 27,000 projects, what we learned is that, there is a huge impact. And, individually, the groups, the communities, and many of them actually translated to national policy, like changing protected area management, policies and legislation, or how we do agriculture or fisheries. And we're proud about those results. But once I learned about the IoT and digital technology, it was really eye-opening that many of these things can be, dealt with really more efficiently and also in scale. And how we got to know, I mean, it's not a secret, but Sarah and Daisuke was here in New York, and my husband actually works on more of the IoT and digital technology world. But then, we got together and, I knew conservation, but I didn't know anything about IoT. I had to, basically search what IoT was, the abbreviation, I mean, and to learn what it was. But, I think over the years, we have worked on a couple of projects to use our case as a use case for the open platform that Microsoft has developed that we can utilize for different projects on sustainable agriculture or wildlife management or fisheries or plastic management. And we've found that there is a pattern in these projects, and we can well be utilizing these resources to scale up the work, utilize the technology to work through. So I'm really excited what we can do further and really get to learn more. It's been a great journey overall, and there's, I think, a lot of opportunity to work.
She's coding things up. She's got to get one of your dev kits, Eric. For the Seed has put out I have it on my shelf. It's a dev kit to get started, and it can do air monitoring, water monitoring, etc. So maybe we can get you one of those, Yoko, and then you hook it up to the open platform. No, it's true. When we started, I didn't know anything about policy. I didn't know anything about what Yoko and her team knows. But through learning, I mean, this is really breaking silos in real life. Because now you know how much I like graphs. But I wanted to talk about Internet of Elephants. That Tom, your story is fascinating, especially to many people in this room. And if you could share kind of where you came from and then where you're going and why you did what you did, that would be really impactful, especially in this room.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I started, my entire career was as an IT consultant at Accenture. I'm sure many people know that name, so 400,000 person consulting company. But I would spend all my holidays and all the money that I would make, which wasn't a lot, but anyhow, enough to go on wildlife holidays. So I would just basically be traveling the world and spending time with wildlife in my holiday time. And there came a point, I remember it very specifically. I even have a photograph of the moment. I was in Antarctica, and I'm sitting there with all these penguins. And I just started thinking, this is so spectacular. And it is so selfish. Like, there is nobody that is benefiting from this experience except me. It's just, and the word that just kept coming to me was like, this is just wildlife gluttony. All I'm doing is just going around getting one more wildlife experience. It's spectacular, but it's total wildlife gluttony. I just felt like such an asshole. And so at that point, it's like at some point I'm gonna make a switch, and it's not just going to be me going around traveling the world and having great experiences with animals, but figuring out how. Obviously, we're not going to take 8 billion people and plop them down in Antarctica or Borneo or anything, but how can I do something that generates even a fraction of the feeling that I get, when I'm in these situations for the larger public that doesn't have the opportunities that I do. Then there's a long story, and eventually I just quit my perfectly good job and decided to get into wildlife conservation. And that was a time when IoT was getting a lot of, just a lot of play. IOE was getting a lot of play, and I just started thinking, well, if we can be connected with each other, and if we can be connected to our refrigerators, and if we can be connected to our cars, what would happen in the conservation landscape if we were connected to wild animals? And what if in some way we could create a connection between, somebody in St. Louis and an elephant in Kenya, or an orangutan in Borneo? And that's a little bit how the idea of Internet of Elephants was born. And if I can just give a little bit of a shout out to Stephanie and Wild Labs, when I was starting, there was just nothing going on in the space of tech for wildlife. I mean, yeah, there were people doing stuff here and there, but our thing was we're tech for wildlife, because there was just not anybody else concentrating on it. And then I came across Wild Labs, and it was just sort of launching up, and got in touch with Stephanie, and was one of the first people on that platform, and she connected me in with some people, and it made such a difference to what we do. And it's been amazing to watch that platform grow over the course of that there is now that incredible network, and the amount of things that are going on in this in this space.
Wonderful. No, I get a lot of inspiration from what you do, because I sit where I sit, and I saw, one of the things that Daisuke and I wanted to fix as we started to go. I mean, the Project 15 was, people will think it's a story or a solution, but it's really just it is a story. They'll think it's a solution, but for me, it was how I got involved. It became me, Daisuke. We got involved. It became me, Daisuke, Lucas, Carl, all the people, and then we wind up today. And so, that's why I really enjoy what you're doing, is because I heard you speak once where you said that, we lose connection to these animals. And if you lose connection, you forget they're there. And so, your app, your experiences try to bring that back, so that, if I care, then I can get involved. But if I don't see it, I might not realize I care, kind of. I'm saying that with probably the wrong words, but that was really how I find, your work so inspiring, and kind of the next level, that the stuff we're talking about around building connected solutions that bring the data, you've used that data for an entirely different business model. And so that's really interesting as well. And everyone, you can check out, those apps, after we're done with today, something to do after that as well. But Eric, I wanted to shift, because I've heard a few things. I hear scale. I know about the scale. I know about finding mechanisms of scale with the GEF Small Grants Program. I know about, Stephanie is doing things, trying to get to scale, and she's mentioning things around the prices of devices, which rhymes. When you contacted us around creating your fleet of IoT in the wild devices, first of all, would love to hear your story into that, and why it's important to you, for you to share with everybody, but also how you see that helping, as maybe you've seen in other industries, at scale, when there's devices at scale.
So I think with this opportunity, I can share some story untold, because it was irrelevant. I think everybody come into this domain with some stories behind them. My hometown was in Sichuan, which is the first place panda was discovered. So there are so many deep mountains which when we talk about mountains, meaning 5,000, 7,000 meters height. So in this mountains, that's where I grew up, and in an agricultural university. But my interest was more on electronics, like computers, everything. So we move on to do the chipsets, and I started this company. I was working for Intel and started trying to feel like derooted from everything which is more organic, and I moved on to create a company called Seed. You will see from the name, we see a lot of potential growth in this community. And I think for the first 10 years, what we have been doing is to make people's life easier. Because with the open source hardware, people can start to create things, but we feel that they need more like sensors, communications, and we made thousands of them, different types of them. And we serve the global maker community for a pretty long time. But 4 years ago, I think it was thanks to Microsoft as well. There was a project called FarmBits, and we started to look into the IoT sensors. And I think very interesting is that there's no much very well-designed IoT sensors for the wild. If we talk about agriculture, that's one of the toughest situations you can ever imagine for IoT thing, because it's staying outdoors for 4 years. It's usually like longer distances, and people don't want to change the battery every month. And it's a super like pressure on the cost. So we didn't know this, but we started with one project called Internet of Tea. It's the IoT, because we don't have elephants in our domain, but we have tea farms in my hometown. So we start to figure out what kind of elements, information people want from the field. But as of today, we think back from 4 years ago, it's not about the technology only. It's about the drive for the farmers. It's about the incentives, about the benefit to the farmers. We were too ignorant by that time. So we working on two journeys. One is around creating the how easier, like making the device that can survive in the field, in the wild, for like 5 years, 10 years, and sitting back and embed AI inside and make it low code so people can just do it. Because we already have a lot of makers all over the world. They have all the possibilities. They understand everything from programming to circuits to like 3D printings. And they have been creating a lot of interesting things, but it's started to get a little bit boring, because you look at any new projects, maybe I have seen that. A lot of projects are just redoing like things has been happened 5 years ago. So I think the means and the talents are already out there. What people are missing is more on the why, on the demand side. So people have been spending quite some time in the community trying to do a Kickstarter. So I want to like follow Steve Jobs, make one product and going to change the world. And the majority of them, we fight with them and we failed, because I think that's not necessary. A lot of the majority of scenarios is actually you bring the latest technology from all over the world to your neighborhood, to your domain. So it's not necessary to be a like commercial mass marketing product. It should better be a solution. It should be like resolving local problems in a much more meaningful way. And it's like the knowledge have been shared, but the practices, they are happening locally. So that's where I think inevitably we come into the sustainability topics, because whenever you look at local economies, a lot about agriculture, a lot about biodiversity, environmental monitoring. So it's I think it inspired me a lot that, okay, let's gather this community and let's face the really challenging that matters. We've seen too many people trying to make their own keyboard because they look at the keyboard every day. It's a lot of energy and a lot of very good skill sets. But how about we look out the window, look out the trees, go out in the wild where there's need. So that's where we're coming more into this field. And I think a good way is we benefit from open source. So we share all the technology know-hows. We can make them scalable because of biomaterials are like sharing a volume cost. But I think on the software side, especially on the like know-hows, that can be independently created and shared upon each other. Like there's so many busy app developers, but they can turn themselves into developing a small function of the grant app into create like a domain-specific application with software, hardware combined and distribute all the global community. I think we are forming a new mechanism to support all the drives you guys have. But we're not there yet. This is still a lot of uncharted routes. So this is our story, and see what's like lays in front of us.
It's fantastic. You know, it's like anything else. You know, you have to get. There are so many. Something I learned as I was running around and meeting new people, and you know, that actually being all digital kind of helped that, because it was easier to meet people in one place. On my television screen here, like you're here today. But the thing is, you know, everyone seems to be working in their own space, and we all, every time we talk, it is things that we do in the technical sphere that are very normal for us that we have been able to bring. And it has been with, you know, a wonderful grace and understanding that our scientific friends have said, oh, we will share knowledge with you to teach you these use cases, because most technologists, I mean, Eric, you touched on it, we don't know how to build a system that does X, Y, and Z for somebody until somebody does the business requirements with us. So this was really an exercise, you know, to get everyone together when we started making friends. And the hackathon that's going on right now that you know, you've been leading, Eric, with your team and the others here at Hackster and the other partners is really phenomenal, in the sense that, you know, that's how we do it. You know, we're getting use cases, everyone's getting involved. And I wanted to just you know, have Yoko talk a little bit about a devathon that was done with Intel, that she participated with, you know, someone who's, you literally said, I didn't know anything about IoT, I looked it up. And so do you want to talk about the Intel FPGA design contest that is just completed and how that went?
Great, thank you so much. So we participated together as a partner on the innovative FPGA with Intel, Microsoft, and many other partners recently, and worked on providing basically the real case from our project. So basically, rather than coming up a mock case or a, you know, unrealistic case, we thought that we really need solutions that are workable, and we usually need to sort of reach out, you know, individually and try to figure out solutions. But these hackathon, devathons are great opportunities to come up, you know, and see what are the potential solutions and innovative solutions to these issues. So we provided real cases from around the world, from Morocco on the ocean conservation to conserve coral reefs, or sustainable agriculture, how we maintain land nutrients and waters, and to increase productivity in these lands. Or we also provided cases of fisheries management, because overfishing is a big issue right now, and how can we regulate and monitor the fish population and see, you know, the trends, and then make sure that we, you know, catch these fishes in the right season so that the population doesn't decrease. I mean, there are all sorts of, you know, issues that we have these days, and I think you are all familiar with this triple crisis that we're going through with climate change, pollutions, and biodiversity loss. So we're really seeking, you know, these digital technology and IoT to really solve these. And so going through this by showcasing 6 cases, we had quite the whole the devathon had over hundreds of I think somewhere close to 300 plus application from different technologies using the FPGA, and many of them actually used our case. And one of the winner of this contest was to come up with a device to monitor coral reef, and also basically deliver some microbe and microorganisms which can stop bleaching and actually recover the coral reef. And we thought this was really a nifty basic device that we can actually replicate and use in many other places. So we're currently talking about how we can deploy that into the real ocean, try to work with local communities so that they can be sort of involved and monitor these together with some scientists or the people who can come up with this developers and technology people. And also, I think what I see as an opportunity definitely is these innovative solutions sort of trickle down to developing countries where capacities can be limited. But if you have a right mechanism to support the local communities and support them and be able to use these technology in a longer run and have some sustainability on its own, I think it would be a really win case that we can do these with low cost, like what Eric just mentioned, and really have a strong sort of impact that we couldn't see in the past. And just to, and actually, I've been to Sichuan and do panda conservation actually in one time in my career, after particularly the earthquake, and we were trying to color some of the pandas who were impacted with earthquake and try to figure out, how the protected area can be expanded and others. I mean, if we knew about IoT then, this was like 20 years ago already, right? So I mean, I think, this could have been much more effective and we could come up with some kind of solutions that are really applicable to that locality, but also can be replicated to others. So just wanted
Can I ask
to.
a question?
Mm-hmm.
Since it is a panel discussion. So I find hackathons really great for ideation and engaging the tech industry, but one of the big questions we always see is like the gap from ideation to scale. And actually you talked about, oh yeah, we could use it like this solution we could see it being used in all these different spaces, but taking in something that's come up within a hackathon to a scalable product is a pretty big, like that, there's a pretty big chasm between them, right? What's your approach for bridging that?
Yeah, no, fully agree. So we just finished the hackathon and the winner is identified, and we are really excited, not, just remain as is and really deploy that on the ground. So in terms of the deployment part, I think Intel themselves are also very interested in supporting on the technology side, device side, and other things. We're actually interested in sort of identifying the right location and right place that the community can be engaged with that and basically first pilot this case. I mean, because we can't do it in a mass scale just right like that. But I think what is important is that first step to use it on the ground and see how it works. And if that works, I think there is a whole lot of interest among even my program itself, because we have 128 countries and, maybe half of them have coral reef problems. And so that can be kind of scaled up to a larger scale. And there are many other programs and projects you're involved too that can maybe use that result and also replicate in a larger scale. So that I really feel that these hackathons shouldn't be just,
flash in the pan.
Celebrating different technology, but then, really have some investment to deploy.
Totally agree, and it's actually a really strong argument for organizations like GEF to be the partner in the hackathon. So there is this pathway. Like I know there's a lot of smaller organizations and like even big ones like WWF that they're partnered in, but having the resources and that have thought through that pathway to actually testing in real world situations, like David says, it's very hard to account for real world conditions in the comfort of a hackathon, which is very correct. It's if you can take that risk position for the rest of our sector and we can actually benefit from the like coral reef like innovations is huge, and is a such a leadership role that's been benefiting the sector more broadly.
No, that's a very good point. And I think, we often talk about the great role that we can play as small grants mechanism. I mean, ours is one of the largest in the conservation community working on small grants in civil society, but there are many other foundations and others who are working on this too. And I feel like, there is, again, putting the dots together. The technology people are working on technology, conservationists are working, themselves trying to figure out what the best solution is. But like utilizing these hackathon and other things, but also make it as a package so that it can be really implemented. And then, also think about the sort of scaling up elements in the project design or in the initiative, I think is really, really important. And with other partners together, I think we can, put these into a model where we can scale up the work. So yeah, no, really excited to see what we can do together.
Yeah, I think I can jump in to put some of the views to this one. Like we have been tired of hackathons ourselves because a lot of them just like end up in a showcase and that's it.
Yeah.
So like for this time we do the hackathon with Hackster. The winner award is not cash or any credits. It's about we spend the budget to help that turn into scalable solution that people can just buy off the shelf and reuse and keep it open. So I think to answer to that question is there are like a lot of small grants, small projects, but usually we can find they have shared purpose and shared technology. So to us, we can abstract layer of all the IoT needs. How do you fetch the data from the wild, the key elements, the objects of interests, then transmit them in a word like a easier way, like or more improvised communication setup, and to process the data in the same cloud or in a similar like algorithms. So I think what we are trying to do is abstract the hardware layer, and also we need to find a way to collect these standard demands, like maybe with wider labs. So we understand it's not we design something and try to sell to the shopping malls. It's like we hear what are the similarity of these demands and cook something out and to improve it on the way. So we are we are willing to carry partial of that onward, especially on the hardware part. We want to invest and we want to make it something that's scalable. And of course, on the know-how, we are just IoT company. We are not experts in that domain. So we are very open to collaborate with those. So we have been doing quite some of the manufacturing OEM, ODM for the last 14 years. We have been helped a lot of startups. So I think we have some experience that can share. Yeah.
So, and that's really, I know we're going to get they're going to come in with the song soon and tell us and I warned everyone in the beginning, these are all, I mean, everyone on this panel, you can listen and talk and learn from them all day long. So I wanted to make sure that the community listening has a place to go to listen and learn as we start to really, as a community, push forward at scale, and then we can have more Internet of Elephants type businesses pop up that are sort of the business model evolution almost around, being able to use that data and create shared data and experiences from a park that can do data as a service, if you will, to something that somebody is, subscription based, anything. I mean, that's really, what it is. So I wanted to have everyone go around and just say, what can people do today who maybe are just getting here and meeting you, start to get educated, start to learn more? Where can they go?
Who would you like to go first?
You know what? Let's do a round. Who didn't we start with? Tom, can you start?
I think they should go to wildlabs.net.
What am I supposed to say now?
You're on the spot.
I mean, it's true though. I mean, seriously, like if you're wanting to kind of understand what's the space, who are the technologists, what are the conservators? I mean, like, don't look at this from a technology first point of view, right? Like, understand what are the actual needs on the ground, and then think about how technology can service it. And that's why something, like a network like that or a platform like that is great, because what you see is a lot of people posting, I've got this problem. I've got this problem. I've got this problem. I've got this problem. Like, who knows how to fix it? And start with looking at what are the problems that people are posting. I mean, obviously there's a bias towards technology being the resolution to that problem, but that's where you can really start to understand what the problems are is in a platform like, is in a platform like that. So I say that with all honesty, that if you're new to the space, or if this is a space that you want to get into, or you want to really kind of see what's your place in it, go there, find out what the problems are, and then, and then go to, determine the solutions that you think you're in a good position to help contribute.
Yeah, I agree on that very much. We are sending myself and my team to Wild Labs. So that's where our engineers can look at the real problems. Like we don't have some existing like solutions to talk to people, but we start looking at that. Then whenever there's some projects on Hackster on that similar topic, we can maybe find a way to congregate the projects, the people, the knowledges, and then to scale that up.
Great. Maybe just to jump in here, in addition to the Wild Lab, maybe it's also, I'll invite you all to come to our website, the GEF Small Grants Programme, where there is a whole database of 27,000 projects that we supported, and information about the 10,000 civil society and local communities that we work together. And I think that would really bring a good view on what are the current problems are in terms of global environmental issues are concerned, and some of the solutions that we have tried, and particularly nested on the traditional knowledge and the local solutions that we had. But how can technology can really support these to amplify it and really respect these sort of different cultures and elements, but sort of utilize that and amplify that sort of solutions further. And we have a lot of publications and videos also in our website where you can just watch and look at it, so that it kind of inspire you to come up with new sort of digital technology that can apply. And if you get in touch with me or any of my staff, we'll be excited to see how we can utilize your new ideas and innovation, because we're always open for matching you with the right, sort of local partners, and try to see what we can do further. So you can be one of the solutions to really, sort of make a small tide towards the trajectory that we really want to shift, and make it more towards sustainable development and achieve, future goals, so that we can conserve and live in harmony with nature.
Can I end it?
Yeah, you are the end.
I would also say go to Wild Labs, but I will specifically say come along to one of our events, because the best way to get involved with conservation is to find people and talk to real people. So getting to know the community we have an event tomorrow. We have one every month. We have a lot happening, but we have a monthly event, which is just the best place to start getting to know people in the community as real people and starting to hear about their challenges. But we also have publications like our State of Conservation Tech, which really hear from the community about where the immediate challenges are, and what's not working in specific technologies and what's needed. And we're working on a big movement ecology piece looking at where we need innovation. So we're also collecting the collective view of our sector, but to direct innovation and to give to you as well, so that you can build stuff to answer those needs. But yes, I would say come to Wild Labs, come to our events, and get involved and talk to people, so you can actually find out what their real needs are instead of just guessing at them.
Great. I mean, this is incredible. Thank you all for being here. You're all such incredible people doing incredible things. And I'm just so glad that you could join today and, help with the folks listening and learning about how they can bring impact, how important their skills really, really are if they don't know already. And so I really look forward to the future. Now that we're all kind of getting into the same dance, to move forward together in the same room. And I see Jessica is back, and I just wanted to thank Jessica for having this panel for her impact summit here going on with her team and Hackster.
Yes, thank you guys so much. It has been a pleasure just kind of sitting back here in the corner here at Ground Zero, answering all the questions that come through chat over on Discord. And there's so many heart emojis and thumbs up emojis with each of you as you were talking about your projects. So it's been such an awesome way to start the summit and really inspire everyone to know that there are resources and avenues out there. All we have to do is ask how we can help. So thank you all so much for your time today. We're going to start to funnel people over to our next session. So thank you again, all of you. I'm going to kick y'all backstage and we'll put up the slide for next session. All right, coming up next, we've got Bill Luen, Senior Program Manager at Google's Coral team. He's talking about using Coral for environmental use cases. Please join us back in the lobby and join that session. If you are tuning in now, make sure you join the Hackster Discord channel. We've got lots of chat going on there. Any of our speakers and presenters can share any links or additional info after or before your sessions, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks all.